I am not a champion. I am not the best. I am not the greatest. I am not a billionaire, nor am I a millionaire. I am not underwear model sexy. I have never reached the pinnacle and won it all. I've taught for 20 years, English and drama in Darby, Montana, never winning a Teacher of the Anything award. During this time, I've coached basketball, tennis, track, and destination imagination, never winning a Coach of the Anything award. In my spare time, I have volunteered to officiate tournaments, coach youth flag football, youth soccer, and youth basketball. I've also volunteered to host skateboard tournaments, tennis clinics, lead food drives, organize an 8-12 student body on the cleanup of an entire town, and with a great group of people, I have volunteered to raise well over $300,000 to build a skate park. I have never won a Volunteer of the Anything award. I've come to accept that per the terms of our society that perhaps I am not a winner. And I embrace it. Now, I know what many of you are thinking. Okay, let's just hand Bryan his participation trophy and send him on his way. Others might be thinking, so hold on a minute. Your idea we're sharing is humble bragging about mediocrity? Please bear with me and let me take you on a journey of big picture, a journey of breadth. Before we begin that journey, I do want to make it clear I am no anti-specialist, anti-winner, anti-great. Some of the most amazing people in our world have this inexplicable ability to narrow their focus like a laser and achieve amazing ends. I have, like the rest of our community and the rest of our world, always marveled at the best of the best, and I will continue to do so. You should know I am somewhat of a Renaissance man, though by definition, Renaissance men and women were supposed to have excellence in multiple facets of life and expertise in at least one. I fear my passions are so scattered I'll probably never be an expert in anything, but that's okay, the metaphor fits, so I'm going to use it. You should also know I have a Renaissance brain. It looks something like this. This is the nature of the journey we're going to go on together today. A montage of experiences that anchor in 3 important premises. 1, we need to respect a life of richness as much as we respect a life of riches. 2, we must celebrate goodness as much as we celebrate greatness. And 3, we need to celebrate the Renaissance men and women in our community who have their fingerprints all over everything. Simply because they're spread thin does not mean they should be transparent. Let's begin our journey. Youth soccer. It's a cold, cold fall morning. Parents are bundled up and circling the field waiting for the games to begin. A sweet 12 or 13-year-old official comes jogging into the middle of the field with a whistle and a ball. She's wearing pigtails, mittens, and a smile. She places the ball, blows the whistle, and chaos ensues. It's your typical amoeba-style 7-year-old soccer. This amorphous blob shifting all over the field, kicking at anything and everything. Parents are laughing, they're smiling. It's wonderful. Until it's not. Until some fan, laser-focused on some perceived officiating transgression, begins to berate the sweet 12 or 13-year-old official. She still wears a pigtail, she still wears her mittens, but she no longer wears a smile. She looks simply like a kid who's afraid she's doing everything wrong. Give us this day our daily bread, and forgive us our trespasses. Junior high basketball. I'm at my son's game. It's a close game. Score's tied with about a minute to go, and the ball is kicked to Finn on the wing, and he lets a 3 fly. It's a beautiful shot. I scoot to the edge of my seat, getting ready to celebrate. The ball heads into the cylinder, catches rim, spins back out. Halfway down, a commentator would call it. It's rebounded and dribbled up the floor by the opposition, and a young man nails what would be the game-winning shot. I'm heartbroken. I simply wanted my son to experience that joy, to have his friends high-five him and hug him. In the moment, laser-focused on only my kid, I am crestfallen. I had a very successful youth basketball career, never hitting a game-winning shot. My life is no less remarkable. And yet, somewhere on the other side of the gymnasium is a mom, a dad, a grandma, a grandpa, grinning from ear to ear because their kid is getting the hugs and the high fives and the smiles. And that's okay, isn't it? To root for other people's kids, even in the high-stakes, cutthroat environment that is junior high sports. Flag football, it creates a healthy space for kids, and all of the profits are pumped back into the school to give children educational opportunities. It has been an absolute highlight for the last 4 years for my son, Finn. It simply does so much good for our community. And yet, every year they have a very difficult time finding volunteers willing to give up 2 hours a week for about 6 weeks to ensure the program flourishes. Every year they too deal with the shenanigans that surround youth sports, the complaining, the negativity, the bickering. I wonder how much longer they can sustain it. And when they're no longer able to sustain it, I wonder if somebody's going to be willing to take their place. Or if we will have a void where once stood something beautiful. Give us this day our daily bread. We're handing out the skate park design. There's a buzz in the air. We've got free pizza. After a very short speech on respect, I hand out the design and steel myself for the inevitable. And the inevitable occurs. One of the first persons to speak to me saddles up and says, is there still time to change this? The Facebook release was somewhat similar, despite a lot of likes. One of the longest comments came from somebody who was so narrow-minded focused on the idea of having a square rail at the skate park, he went on to let us know what a terrible job we did and how we were getting ripped off. How is it we have created in our society a space where somebody feels it's okay to berate a 12 or 13-year-old volunteer official? How is it in our society we have created a space where somebody feels it's okay to negatively attack a group of women just trying to do good for kids? And how in our society have we created a space where after a 20-year, 2-decade process that literally burned through 2 different groups of volunteers and multiple members on the board that I served with, that we've created a space where somebody's first instinct would be to complain to somebody who made the dream finally become a reality? I believe the customer is always right mantra is seeping into aspects of our society it does not belong. In the business world, I get it to some extent. You have a product, you sell the product. If the customer is not happy with the product, you refund it or give them another one in order to keep their business. It's about profit margins. Not too impressed that the customer often feels entitled to be angry, but as they say, business is business. I've now seen the customer is always right mantra seep into youth sports, where apparently paying a ticket allows you to berate the officials, the coaches, the other fans, and the players, no matter how old they are. And now I fear the customer is always right mantra is seeping into volunteerism. And I promise you, we cannot let this happen. There is no place for negativity in the pursuit of goodness. It's no wonder volunteers are becoming harder and harder to find. Give us this day our daily bread. I'm skating the park, enjoying the scene, having a blast, chatting with local skaters. After my session, I start to pick up some trash, and as is my nature as a teacher, I start to lecture some of the kids around about keeping the park clean, about how it is the best way to say thank you to those who gave time, to those who gave money, and to the city. Some gentleman sees me chatting and saddles up next to me, strikes up a conversation. Partway through the conversation, he says, "So is there going to be some sort of an expansion soon?" I raise an eyebrow. He says, I didn't donate any money when the skate park was being built because, in his words, I didn't get it. I didn't get skate parks. I just thought, what's the big deal? But now, with 2 kids learning to skate, he gets it. This really got me thinking. Do we have to have a shared experience in order to want to give joy to kids? Does it have to be our own kids? In 20 years of teaching, I have given to so many causes I know nothing about. It's ridiculous. Dance? You don't want to see this. Ballet? Not a chance. Rodeo? Ouch. Wrestling? No. And on and on and on. I don't get any of those things. and yet I do. Is it so difficult for me to transfer the emotion that I get when landing a kickflip or a trout to some young ballerina who lands her first ever grand jet? It isn't that hard. If we just climb out of our trance for a second, we will look around and we will see thousands of amazing opportunities of passion for our children. If a community is to flourish, we must embrace them all. It's big picture, it's breadth. This is Robert Leonardi. He was a great friend to my kids, Finn and Lila, and the beloved son of our good friends, Phil and Alice. Last summer, at the age of 9, he was struck by a car crossing the street to play with a friend and killed. It is the worst possible example of being so entrenched in yourself that you refuse to see the world around you, speeding on a street that kids often bike and walk. The last day I would see Robert was at the skate park grand opening, and man, was this a magical day. Sun was shining, music was playing, kids and parents were just absolutely coursing with energy. Jeff Ament was there, as were 3 local newscasts. I can't even explain how much joy this day brought me. While trying to organize the event, thank those who needed to be thanked, MC the competition, and give out swag, I would occasionally just see these glimpses of joy that kids were experiencing. And in those glimpses, I would see Robert, eyes alight with joy, his beautiful smile just beaming in the summer sun. He got to meet Jeff Ament and have his picture taken with him. He even got on the news with a group of friends saying, "We love skateboarding." It's anything any parent could ever want, a happy child. The next day, he was gone. At his funeral, one of the 3 speakers was his volunteer flag football coach. This coach told a story of Robert's zest for life. At Flag Football Super Bowl, game is almost over, they're running out of time, and they're down by less than a score. The ball goes to Robert. Somehow in his run, he loses his shoe. White sock flapping against the green grass, he bobs, weaves, spins, sprints through the entire opposition and scores the winning touchdown. Again, it's anything any parent could ever want, a happy kid. As I sat at the funeral listening to this story, holding my wife's hand, I became absolutely jolted by how important volunteerism is to our kids. It was 20 years of volunteerism that led to a skate park that will forever leave me with the image of his beautiful smile. It was the volunteerism and a local police officer willing to coach a team that gave me this tiniest shred of light on one of the darkest days I've ever known. I mention Robert because I love him, and I miss him, and I want his memory to be shared with the world, but also because his story is the most poignant in today's montage. Nothing matters more than our children. The volunteers in our community matter to our children. We have a myriad of awesome abilities as human beings. One of those is the ability to give of our time and to give of our money. I encourage you to do it. More importantly, I encourage you to encourage others to do it. A community's strength always lies in its numbers. Together, if everybody gave just a tiny bit more, the results would be life-changing. Another equally awesome ability we all have as human beings is to shape the narrative and the experience of our volunteers. I'm telling you, the thank yous have to outweigh the angry customer 1,000-fold for the sake of our community. Let us remember, 1, to live a life of richness as much as we're willing to live a life of riches. 2, to live a life of goodness as much as we want to live a life of greatness. And 3, to support the Renaissance men and women who live by these 2 maxims. When it comes to community, we gotta think big picture. We must remember, today, this day, and every day going forward, give us our daily breath. Thank you.